several things today to address the Parks Committee. First is approval of the Latin Businessmen Association request for alcohol permit at Old Trace Park. Probably that needs to say beer.
Yeah, beer permit. We have Israel Martinez here, who's spokesman for the Latin American Businessmen Association, and they have requested a permit to sell beer at Old Trace Park for their event in September. What date?
The 20th.
September the 20th. They've agreed to comply with our requests concerning a beer garden, which is a segregated area for beer sales and consumption, security at the park, and payment of a $1,000 fee for permit.
Sales and consumption is limited to the garden.
To the garden, it would be segregated, fenced off.
What's the size of the garden?
Undetermined at this point, but staff will work it out with. It'd be no more than 50% of the park.
What did we do on the previous one?
Previous one,
the
actually,
size.
It was probably 25% of the park, and there were two areas.
Okay. So our precedence is 50% of a park from the other.
Pretty much, yeah.
And then as far as the future, on the next request, are we going to limit ourselves to a percentage of the park that will be designated as a beer garden?
That's what I recommend.
To not exceed?
Not to exceed a certain, and if it's 50% here, then it's going to be 50% for all future requests.
Is that the right size in your opinion?
Yes.
Is that the right size in law enforcement opinion?
Yes, sir. We've got to start somewhere, and that we can always adopt it or change it later if we're still new at this and we're monitoring it closely.
Mm-hmm. I'm uncomfortable with 50%. Is why I asked that. If we're going past a garden, we're going into a crop of the whole field. At 50%, it exceeds a garden in my mindset. That's the reason I'm asking these questions.
Certainly open discussion.
I'm not comfortable with turning half of the park into a garden to accommodate a request. It becomes more of a garden to me when I think of a garden. I'm going to the state fair and I'm looking at a tent that's a very constrained area. I'm not looking at and I'm also thinking ahead on down to other issues similar. And 50% makes me nervous. Just mention that straight up.
Any other comments?
It is certainly within the prerogative of this committee to recommend something.
What would you?
I have no recommendation. I just feel like if we got a 40-acre field, and we're going to make 20 of it one thing, we went way past a garden. All right. We've turned half of a park into alcohol coming and going to it and froing. And if I were there, I may be participating. I'm not anti-alcohol here, okay? I just don't want to see us turn a half of a park into a garden so that we can call this thing a garden and permit this. I'm uncomfortable with that. A garden to me is a tented area that may have another barrier a little further around it, and we're restraining it there, and it's by nowhere near close to 50% of the park. There's where my concern is.
Bobby, how big was y'all?
We had two. The first one was on the south side of the park. Took up about, it was a tent on the hill in the parking lot, which was like 40 by 100 feet. And then it went down the hill, and it was just fenced or ribboned. I think most of that area, there may have been a little tent down there. So that was about, I don't know, probably another 120 feet down the hill. and it narrowed down to, it veered so that it did not go down and square off. It kind of cornered off so we would have more of an open area and the open ground for the band. And then on the left side, it was 40 by 100. There was another tent size, 40 by 100. So we're talking less than 25% of the park.
I never knew we had 2 beer gardens at the first one. I thought we were, that's my ignorance. It's nobody's fault. I'm not throwing any rocks. I just thought I thought we had one designated area. I didn't know we did 2. But that's, again, maybe here and there.
Mr. Latham, I think Mr. Martinez had a comment.
Yes, thank you. Well, thank you for having us, for having me. Yes, we don't need 50% of the park. We can work very well with 2 gardens, 100 by 100, and we're bringing over 100 volunteers. A lot of them are coming from the Red Cross. They're people who are well experienced, and also from the banks. So we're going to be extremely careful, and we're going to take care of everything. And this is also a familiar event, so we don't want people drunk and all that. Thank you.
That being said, I think we can come off the half the park. Because of what, Bobby used a quarter probably or less.
What is the total acreage of that park?
45, I think. Is what it is.
I know from the little world that I come from is once you give somebody something and you give them too much at the front end, it's hard to ever pull back. And therein lies my concern on 50%.
Well, Mr. Martinez has recommended 200 by 100s for his event. Any discussion on that? For future events, is that too small? Is that going to suffice what we need, or?
Again, y'all, all of you in here, don't get me wrong. If I was there, I'd probably be in the garden, okay? Don't get me wrong. I have trouble with the percentage. I have trouble with 2 gardens. Are we going to allow 3 the next time and scatter them around more? A beer garden to me is one location so that law enforcement and those in charge of it can control and patrol one area and not have people who are managing this event dispersed into 2 locations. Those are my concerns, Mr. Chairman.
Well, take it. And what we say today will probably be used from
You bet your whistle it will.
your own. So that's the reason we've got to come up with something that we can all work with. And
Your event, sir, is September 20.
Yes, sir, 20th. Mm-hmm. It's a Saturday.
I'm going to make a motion, we table this event, this request, and let us consider this, and come up not with, sir, with no disrespect to you, but not what you want, but what we want, precedence-wise. And I know that out of courtesy, you guys came and you met with the group earlier, and I was unable to be here. That's my fault. I thank you for that. But I would like, now that I know what you want, I'd like for some staff recommendation and discussion relative to what we want to do in the future, how it impacts Pepsi Pops, how it impacts our next barbecue event, and I'd like for us to have something solid that we can stay with, that we're content with. And I'd like to table it still with plenty of time to approve this prior to your event so that you can plan, sir. Yes.
let me say this, I think at his meeting, they're trying to find a location.
Okay.
And the sooner they get either approved or turned down is what they're needing to do to proceed with their.
I understand.
What is What would you estimate the 100 by 100 percentage would be of the park?
It'd be a small percentage, 10,000.
Couldn't we come up with a percentage that's much smaller than that and go ahead and get this behind
I
us?
think,
Staff?
if I may recommend, I think Mr. Martinez needs to know that he can have his event, yes or no.
I
Now,
understand.
if we wanted to say we would approve a minimum of 100 by 100 or 200 by 200 or whatever it might be, to work out the details, or maybe just tell him, we'll give him, let him know that he can get a permit and then table the size of the land area that he can use for the garden until later. That may help him go ahead with his planning.
Thank you. Well, that's another part. This event, I don't know if you've done some research on Latin
No.
Fest. Okay. Well, this is the third time we are having it. And last year we had it in Jackson. We were expecting about 1,000 people. We have over 2,000. This event is sponsored by the Mississippi Tourism Department, the Red Cross, the banks, possibly Belk, Entergy, and many other big companies. Therefore, their planning takes a lot of time, and we need to submit our proposals right away.
I understand.
And we had several meetings already, including one that you all had us here. And it's crucial for us to choose a location. Mr. McGee, Mayor McGee, he's been very supportive of this event. He would like to have it in Ridgeland. The same thing with the Department of Tourism. But we need to have an answer for our sponsors and for the planning soon. Thank you.
Do you want
Got a
to?
question? Just a thought. How feasible would it be to check with other facilities that do this to know what their basic ground rules are, just to give us a frame of reference?
I think that's what there.
Be it one big one, two little ones, or total square foot, not more than X, or that type of thing. I mean, you got a lot of space out there, and just to go from one side of the park to others, can be a pretty good hike. Somebody wants a beer, they're going to do it, but does it make more sense to have two smaller than one big one? Those type of questions may be something to look at.
At the barbecue event, there were two. One basically was non-functional, because the food was at the other one, but it really was not used, and I thought the one garden was more than enough. At the state fairgrounds, they have them in tents, and they're concessionaires, and it's multiple. Everybody's been down there. We really need to give these guys an answer. They postponed their decision, I think, as long as they can. Their sponsors want to know exactly what they're sponsoring and what they're getting into.
What is 20% what do you guys? Just to get it on. That was done.
I know we're going to get it off to the center. All right, so if we can agree on the 20%, then what are we going to do about multiple locations?
I'd let these folks decide how they want to break it up.
I think we ought,
With the staff.
I think the board needs to decide how the crowd, if it's exponentially growing as you state, how can we manage people best?
Well, the staff would be involved in making that decision.
Not if we permit them to have two, and we decide it's best that we maintain alcohol sales here.
Is
then-
it essential for you to have two?
I think we can work well with two. With one, it's going to be overcrowded. With two, we can definitely work well. And also, as I mentioned, the CEO of the Red Cross, Sandra Hutch, is going to help us overseeing this event. The same applies for Jack Thomas, who works for the for the Jackson International Airport.
Okay, here's where we at. They're needing two spots. How big That's what we gotta come up with. Or do we allow one spot? That,
Would you accept a motion to get it off going some way right now?
well, we have a motion to table it
You know,
for right now.
you do away with that, what are you gonna do? You ain't got a second, do you?
We have a motion, you know, that's all we have right now.
We don't have a quorum.
I don't know. We've got-
Yes, sir, we have
we
a
got a
quorum.
quorum.
We have a quorum.
Well, I was just thinking of
Motion was
something
in
along
second.
the line of not more than 20% and let staff and people that are going and figure out whether they do 2 or 1 or whatever. If we want to put a max on that, just keep it limited to 2. And then it would be broken up. They might want one of them bigger than the other one, depending on location. But once we're out of here, they can't wait for us to. We're gonna have to make a decision on what they're gonna do.
Well, best thing I'm gonna do I have a second for Larry's motion of table it?
I withdraw my motion, though. I didn't understand the imminency of giving them a
Would you
decision.
like to do that?
I'll withdraw the motion to table.
Okay.
You comfortable with the 20% and the staff and them deciding on the size and all? I think that we're gonna have more and more of these over the years to come, and this.
And that's what we got to decide today. We can't, you know, what we decide today is what's gonna go
Well,
forward.
not necessarily. I think we can put the wording in this motion that this was a new process, and we've got to work our way through it. We'll learn, every one of them we do, we'll learn something.
Yes.
Okay, well, then I have a motion
I so moved.
of, what do you so move?
Keep it below 20%, no more than 20%, that the staff and the people that are using the facility will determine how those will be sized, not restrict to the same size or whatever. Leave our staff some leeway to work with the thing. I just think it's going to wait, stretch it out too long, and we need that event, I think, after.
Mr. Caraway, will you also have the $1,000 permit fee?
Yes.
Motion.
That's staff recommendation.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Mr. Chairman, I was under the impression when we met with the group the last time, we would finalize it at our board meeting, which is scheduled for this Thursday.
This is what we're gonna present to the board on Thursday.
So this won't be filed with a recommendation going to the board.
Right. This
It
is
can
not,
be amended at the board.
we're not making a decision, this is what's to go before the board on Thursday.
Okay.
Do we have a second? Bruce, second. All those, is there any other discussion when we get to that?
I'm not very good at, I am no count at Robert's Rules of Order. Can the minutes reflect for the committee meeting that everything that's been said and that this is for this event only?
Yes, sir. It is specific to this event.
Each request for a permit and each vote on permit is for that event only. There's no broad.
And that, and I'm understanding that we're setting up with this motion, where you got 20% max, and we're gonna allow 2 facilities. And it will be restricted to those 2 designated areas.
Not necessarily the same size. They can wiggle the size.
As long as they don't exceed 20% of the area.
Okay, well, Mr. Caraway, I believe you said that the 20% garden space, the space for the garden, but that you recommend that staff work out the size, location, per event,
With
right?
folks.
Yeah.
But there was not a limitation put as to number on that. That was for staff to determine based on the event.
I don't have any problem putting some language in there that this is a new ground with plowing here. So don't depend on that holding the case next year or whatever we have another. If you guys would be more comfortable with that. Okay.
Any other discussion? Not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against, nay. This passes. So you can get back to John and then to get everything worked out.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
He needs to know that final approval won't be till after Thursday.
Yes, Thursday.
This Thursday?
Right.
Board tomorrow.
Okay.
But before you leave, let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Strictly for curiosity.
Mhm.
How did you decide not to include wine in your?
It counts as alcohol, so we're good.
Well, wine.
Well, you know, this gentleman can make a motion for that.
You didn't ask for it. I just wondered why you know.
We're going to have plenty of food. That will help. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. As we mentioned at the last meeting, it's going to bring a lot of great things, and you'll have also a lot of fun. Thank you.
I have 4 guests. Mr. Chuck wanted to comment. What do you want to do with Mr. Chuck?
Oh, I'm Chuck O'Shea.
Okay, you want to comment on which one?
That on the proposed changes for the parks policy.
Okay.
Thanks, sir.
You talking about the upriver?
Just the park itself.
Park event. Special meeting.
Number 2?
Number 2 is fee, park fee.
Yeah, park event fee.
Okay, number 2. All right. All right, the next item is a special event fee change proposed for 30-day covenant period. And who you want to handle it?
Well, let me set the stage, if I may. This was a policy that the committee looked at last month and asked that it be put out for publication, for notification, for consideration. It has not been adopted as a provisional policy yet. If the committee and the board were to so decide to move forward, it would be adopted as a provisional regulation and then have to go through the Administrative Procedures Act to get 30-day comment period and approval of the Secretary of State and publication and so forth. So we haven't even really begun that process, but this has been put out for comment, and we have met with the Symphony and we have met with the Madison County Chamber of Commerce and made this information known to them both in the meeting and by letter, and haven't really received any comments. But obviously there's someone here today who would like to comment. So that's kind of where we are at this point.
Okay, Chuck, you got the point.
Thanks, sir. And Mr. Chairman and committee members, Mr. Sigmund, we just want to thank you, number one, for giving us the opportunity to just discuss this. We understand you have goals, you have expenses, there's things you're trying to do to manage this, and the county chamber wants to do everything they can. We get that it costs money to have, police protection and everything else. But we thank you too. This will be the 5th year we've had the Dragon Boat Festival, and I'm an alderman for the city, but today I'm, as past president of the county chamber, I'm coming in just to kind of to speak. The current president wasn't here. Also wanted to introduce Paige Peterson. She's somewhat new to as executive director of the Madison County Chamber. As you may remember, a couple of years ago, we got off on bad foot with the former executive director. Kind of blew up in terms of some of the changes, not understanding some of it, and everything else. And she's no longer with us. But with that said, we did have a couple of concerns, nothing that we can't live with, but things that we wanted to talk about. And just to give you a little background, this will be the 5th year we've actually put this on. This is the 6th year we've attempted to. And about the third executive director ago, one year decided that she just didn't feel like there's any way we could go without losing a lot of money on putting the event on, and pulled it in like December of that year. With that said, there's only been 1 year where the event has actually raised more money than we've spent from the Chamber's funds, and that was last year, and that was very meager. I mean, under $1,000 that they actually could say they profited. A lot of county chambers do golf tournaments. We wanted to think outside the box 5 or 6 years ago. Diane Dyer came to me and said, "Chuck, what do you think about this?" I said, "It's very different. It's much more exciting than putting on a golf tournament as a fundraiser for the chamber." So we did that. Again, it did make money. Each year we've tweaked it and done a little bit different these things, but it's been always met with overwhelming success, but underwhelming monies that it's raised out of. However, with that said, there's other dragon boat festivals in the Southeast that have done different things. I was notably impressed with one in Alabama that raised over $150,000 clear to do a hospital wing. They added on a children's wing. They did some great things. And with that inspiration, this year we're tweaking ours once again. We'll be raising money for, besides that, it's still a Madison County Chamber event that we hope to raise money for, but we're also hoping that we do, and as well as that, the teams and the paddlers will raise money for Madison Countyans Against Poverty, and basically MADCAP is the plan we chose. We actually have a website set up where each paddler will be able to raise funds to paddle in the event, and instead of sending them to a marathon to raise money as they run, they'll actually raise money as this. So we're putting again another tweak on it. We're watching our expenses. And Paige, as you know, our new executive director is as well, and we believe that was a lot of the success. We couldn't have done this without great police force. We worked with Officer Hunt, Chief Perry for many years to put on an event that hasn't had any kind of serious incidents whatsoever. The Ridgeland Police are always there. Last year they had a team. Ridgeland Fire Department has had they've won overall at 1 year. Mississippi Highway Patrol won in 1 year. So it's a great event that builds a lot of teamwork. It brings a lot of recognition to the reservoir and the reservoir area, and it brings in people into our restaurants and hotels. So as a city, we love it. The city loves this event. The city's been a sponsor before, and today we're actually kind of asking for something a little unusual, and we're hoping won't throw a rock at us, but we're actually asking that you consider us a contest, because this is a contest where they go to race. And in your policy, it does talk about possibly that the policy doesn't really affect, a contest. And I know you probably intended, or maybe whenever they came up with it, intended that to be a contest for things such as a fishing contest or so forth. But considering that, again, we're trying to do this. We want to partner with you versus just have the event here. We'd like to raise some money for the chamber, and we'd also like to raise money for MADCAP. So we're asking that you become a sponsor at the committee itself if y'all are interested, and allow us to put on this event. We would love to pay back some expenses that you're going to incur, and these permit fees are reasonable what they're at. Now, with that said, it does cause a little bit of heartburn to see that we have to pay half of the event the day before if we have to set up, because there's no way we can put on the event. Event takes, we're running boats back and forth. 4 boats go every 15 minutes starting at 9 o'clock, and we have to get them in the water and everything else and set up a lot of tents. We had over 5,000 people last year. We're trying to do some things where we have a major sponsor that we're talking to this week that'll possibly be a presenting sponsor, where they would provide a lot of the tents, they would provide some staging and everything else, and we'd love for y'all to be part of it. Again, we don't have any comments on that. One thing, too, separately from, say, for example, the Latin Businessmen Association, we don't really feel like we can sell beer or alcohol simply because we've always promoted this as a family-friendly event. And this year we know of at least 2 churches that have been very interested in going ahead and having a team of themselves, raising money for this group. And we hope to have more signed up by June. We hope to have 60 teams. Last year we had 42 teams. If we have 60 this year, we use shuttles to bring people in. We understand and we know, too, that there may be some alcohol violations. We haven't really enforced that. But then again, we've had very few teams that have actually been bringing stuff in. We're not going to be naive enough to say it doesn't happen, just like Pepsi Pops or anything else. But at the same time, we haven't gone over that way. So we know that there's concerns on y'all's part regarding that. But we're willing to do whatever we can if we can just partner. And with that said, I appreciate your time and look forward to working with you.
Anybody like to ask Mr. Gaucher anything? So you're basically concerned about the setup fee the day before?
The day before, the day after. I mean, we do everything we can to get garbage and tents and everything cleaned up afterwards, take down jumpy parks, all those things. I've spent 6 hours in the rain one year, I remember, just picking up trash. And of course, it was soaking wet. And, right after the event, when it was bagged up, and it still took us several hours. We understand that, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure we're doing that. But if we have to pay after, and that again, it cuts away of any profit. If we have a year like we had last year, or teams bail out on us, we don't get 60, we're going to go in the hole again. So that itself is something where we feel like if we have to spend another $1,000 for setting up the day before and the day after, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt a little bit. But also, I certainly understand there's electricity charges. We had 4 vendors that used every pole, I think, last year. And I don't doubt that there's some electricity costs. And I don't doubt, when I was calling Mr. Hunt at home one morning, hey, how do we turn on the boxes? That's where we know there's expenses, and we know that there's things that you incur. But anything you can do to help us, and that's why we thought possibly if Pearl River Valley would be interested in being a sponsor of the event, we could work something out after the event. We don't mind showing you numbers of how much we made in previous years, how much we make this year, and coming right after this one back to the committee to let y'all decide what you want to charge us for next year. But we'd love for you to come on board as a sponsor and let us promote y'all on the reservoir itself. One other thing that we're doing this year too, tourism has partnered with us. Regional Tourism, they have actually they're actually going to give us $6,000 this year, but it has some strings attached to it. They're actually wanting us to recruit teams from other chambers in the southeast that have had teams and basically pay their way to actually bring in a boat. So instead of just giving us $6,000, they're going to buy a boat for every one of these out-of-state teams that come here. So you'll have more people reaching their goal, which is to put people in hotels and at dinner tables here in the region. So they're partnering with us as well. They see the value of the event. And again, anything you can do, we're certainly welcome to work with you. We understand that, but we don't have heartburn in terms of understanding that y'all are here to watch expenses. We just want to do what we can to keep this event inexpensive and hopefully make some money for the chamber and for MADCAP.
What is the date of your
May 18th? 17th.
May 17th? Thank you. Okay, back to the business at hand. You have before you. Do you want to go over that, John? What
the changes in the regulation of one's highlighted in yellow, which includes half-day rental for early setup and late removal, electricity fee of $100, and a lighting fee of $100. I don't think the $100 fees are in contest. If you don't use those services, you don't pay for them. And the generators cost about $350 a day, so at least the ones who've used generators in the past are coming out well ahead. The half a day rental the day before and after is target on. That's exactly what it is. It's an incentive to ask to get organizations to clear the park. And particularly Dragon Boat has come in some years on Thursday and Friday setting up and don't clear out till Monday. And it just ties the park up for other patrons. It's pretty good incentive. And, I guess it hit the target. So.
have we had times that, not just then, but we could have used the park for another event, but it was tied up because it didn't clean up?
Every day that the sun comes up, there are patrons in that park. soon as we open the gates at daylight, using that park. Whether it's a special event or not, sometimes there are one on right behind the other one, but I don't recall that that's happened. It's forced a special event not to be able to come in. But we strive to keep those parks clean, clear, and open for the citizens and the leaseholders that use it the next day.
Okay, are we here today to bring this to the board on Thursday, or?
No, this, what I would recommend, what the committee wants to do, but we're at the position now that we can adopt this as a provisional regulation, and then when the board approves that, it would go into the Administrative Procedures Act for a 30-day published, 30-day comment period. And then we have to go the board has to adopt the final regulation, and then it has to be published before it's enforced once you're 90 days out.
So at this point,
They
there is
missed
no
this
charge
year.
for the day before.
They missed this year, yes.
We put this into effect.
John,
Do-
is the big cost of electrical cost, is that
No.
in the morning?
No, we ran the numbers on the barbecue contest, and it was like $50 for lights and 50 or so for electricity. Now granted, we spent $180,000 putting that stuff in, but also last year, the Symphony's generator cost them $350,000, so they didn't object to this at all. The electricity, I don't think is what people are concerned about. It's the extra occupancy of the park on a day before or a day after.
Will the members of the board, Parks Policy Committee, are you ready to send this before the full board? If you are, I hear a motion.
I'd like to ask another question that may not suit Robert either. As I understand what I just heard, if we bring this to the board, you guys are still exempt this year from any payment of it. Is that correct?
It would not be in effect in time for their
This
event.
year? Okay. So if we bring this to the board as policy, then at a later date, we're going to do an intent to be filed Secretary of State for 30 days comment, right? And then we'll vote on final, at which time during the intent and before the final, our comments could include a revision to this at that time. Am I correct in all of the above?
Yes.
Motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Any discussion? Not. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, nay. Passes. We'll
You
bring
know,
this.
do understand this doesn't affect you this year?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But it does next year.
Well, but we'll have time to relook and,
But it'd be a great time. If you don't mind, I'd love to get with you about the sponsorships or talking about that in some future day.
I'm not on that committee, but what I want to see us do is soon after you get through this year, that we sit down and work, and if we're going to make changes, let's don't let it be so close up that y'all have already started your promotion.
Absolutely.
So I would recommend that soon after the event, that we sit down and look at y'all and see if this is something we need to change, or we need to make some amendments, but let's do it early.
Please, thank you.
Thank you.
And may I recommend that you guys be present during the intent period on that month's board meeting, where we can change if the board so deems necessary. We can hear your comments then during the intent period.
Next item is approval of proposed upriver camping regulation. John, you want to bring this forward?
Yes, I'll start. We've been through quite a long process over, a year of addressing the upriver camping situation. We've met with the committee a number of times. We have discussed and rediscussed these issues. We had a facilitated meeting where certain things were brought out and discussed and so forth and so on. We feel like we did a pretty good public involvement process here. And what we have before you, about the third page back, is the proposed regulations for camping on sandbars. And the staff would recommend adoption of this as a provision regulation and to enter into the Administrative Procedures Act process to become a final regulation. And Mr. Bailey is here, he may want to comment.
He's got checked no, but I can't believe Brent ain't gonna say something.
I just came just in case there were any questions from new faces that were involved in the discussion over the last several months and the I guess the cooperation and agreement that both staff and stakeholders and others have on the board and committee members have come to agreement on. I think it's a very common sense set of regulations going forward. I think it paves the way for cooperation from the stakeholders upriver, as well as enforcement staff, and meeting the objectives y'all have as protecting your natural resources, creating preserving the natural environment that we've come to enjoy up there upriver, and hopefully it just satisfies the objective, the multiple objectives that we all have here.
Fred has been a good part of our upriver committee meeting from Bob and the rest of the people that have been coming. Do I have a motion that we accept this approval?
Yes.
All the hard work we done put in this, we got to have. Do I hear a second?
Yes.
I think you're messing with me. Is there any discussion? If not, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against, nay. It carries. Next is the approval of the CMPDD's proposal to provide campground rate comparison study.
We feel like our campground rates need to be reviewed and attention needs to be placed on them. And Craig and I sat down a while back and attempted to do that, and we soon realized that we didn't have enough information or enough knowledge to back up the assumptions that we were making when we tried to compute the revenue on different scenarios. And at that point, we thought it would be very appropriate for us to recommend that we get some professional people involved, namely Central Mississippi Land Development District, to do us a little study of comparative campground rates around the country, around the southeast, and make a recommendation to us on our rate schedule that we can then move forward with. We have before you a proposal from the CMPDD to do such a study, maximum amount of $10,000. We recommend approval.
Can I hear a motion?
Motion.
Second.
You got a motion?
You got a second. Is there any other discussion on this? If not, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against, nay. Carries. Okay, next thing is the award of a contract on Lakeshore Electrical Improvement Project.
We took bids on putting an electrical distribution project into Lakeshore, similar to what we put into Old Trace last year and have been using for these special events. A lot of work and a lot of thoughts gone into it. Mark B.A. is the engineer. He's here today in case we have questions. We took bids. We had sort of the low bidder left a lot of money on the table. He came back to us and said, "Oh, I made a mistake. I don't want to honor my bid." And the second low bidder was still $40,000 under the engineer's estimate. It's been my experience over the years that when a low bidder says, "Ooh, I made a mistake," you better not force him to do your contract, and you're not going to have a prayer getting his bid bond. And I've never, in my 35 years, seen a bid bond confiscated. So I recommend we let him out and we award it to the second bidder, who's a reputable company, and who is still way below our estimate, including all the alternates. And we recommend go ahead and execute all the alternates and award the contract in the amount of $252,700. Any comments, Mark?
That's who you covered it.
Now, this is, just for them, this is not the tie-ins that,
This does not include Entergy. I just got their invoice yesterday afternoon. I didn't have enough nerve to bring it in here on top of this today. But their invoice would be $12,700, which is a lot less than we first thought. Between Mark and Greg Burgess, they went back and looked at the thing and got it down to a single-phase system. It saved us a whole bunch of money. And we'll still have 50 amp service around and 200 amp service down at the bandstand here, just like we do over here. But by the 4th of July, we'll be able to have the Independence Day event without all those generators running. We recommend approval of this award. Webster Electric.
do I have a motion to accept this bid? So moved. Second? Mr. Bruce? Any other discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against, nay. Carries. Okay. Number 6, acceptance of the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries and Parks grant for fish cleaning station.
Our partners at Wildlife, Fisheries and Parks have come up with yet another grant for us this time for a fish cleaning station to be located at Beacon County Water Park, the Crosby Memorial Fish Station. And we have gotten approval from DEQ to tie it into our sewer system, so, we've had to wait a couple of years to get that done. And we will, in fact, we're very pleased to have this, to be able to say that we've got this and we get it put in and then we maintain it. And we recommend acceptance of the award, grant award.
Do I have a motion? Mr. Bruce, second. Mr. Jim, you're going to have to be Larry. He's with the Department of Wildlife. Second. You second?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Not, those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against, nay. Carries. Number 8 is acceptance proposal from Neil Schaefer for Fanning Route.
Skip one. You gotta get that one first.
Okay. Excuse me. Acceptance of the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries and Parks grant for Fanning Route Restaurant.
Again, our partners at Wildlife, Fisheries and Parks have extended a third year of a grant that we've been using to upgrade facilities at Fannin Landing. We've got the breakwater in and floating piers. And we bid this restroom one time and it came in so high we had to reject the bid and think it over. And this year Wildlife has come back with another grant to allow us to approach that again, and staff recommends approval and acceptance of the grant.
Do I have a motion? Mr. Jim, second. Bruce. Any other discussion? Not those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against, nay.
Same story, little Larry.
That passes. Okay, now the acceptance proposal from Neil Schaefer for Fanning Route restroom design.
In order to redesign the restroom, we need to go ahead and engage Neil Schaefer. And we have a letter of proposal in the package here, a design fee of $12,000 and a construction phase fee of $15,000. I will remind you that because we didn't go further with the other restroom project, there's a $22,000 contract laying out there that will be voided. So actually, the money works out very close to where we were to start with. And we recommend approval of this contract with Neil Schaefer.
May I have a motion? Ms. Jim, a second. May I have a second? Mr. Bruce? Any other discussion? Not those in favor say aye. Those against nay. Pass. Number 9, approval to advertise for a mowing contract at Timberlake Campground and Goshen Springs Campground.
We are seeking permission to advertise for those two locations. We have done this for the last 10 to 12 years, and it's very successful for our campgrounds that we do contract that. We're seeking your permission to advertise.
What's it been going for?
Goshen Springs was roughly 13,000, and Timberlake was around 37. And I think that's pretty consistent with the last 8 years at least.
Motion.
Larry, got a second? Ms. Jim, any further discussion? Not, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against, nay. Okay, number 10, final adoption of the regulation change to Title 33, Part 203, Chapter 1, Rule 1.3, traffic control at public parks for the district, as filed with the Secretary of State.
This is the change that would allow the executive director to set the dates of beginning and ending of charging for admission to the parks. And we recommend, we have not had any public comment. Cindy, is that correct?
That's correct.
And the executive director remembers the caution that he is to seek advice of this committee the first year on these dates.
Do I have a motion? Mr. Bruce, second. Mr. Jim, any further discussion on this? If not, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against, nay. Ayes have it. That is all that we have on the agenda. Is there anything else that we need to address?
We'd like to make sure that everyone knows that we are not going to offer a trash pickup contract on sandbars this year. That we have had it after the last three major holidays during the summer for the last 2 years. And we've had such good cooperation and such good participation by Mr. Bailey and his group and others on the sandbars that it's not worth us hiring a contractor, and we will simply go up there ourselves and pick up what it's turned out to be 8 or 10 bags of trash after each major holiday. And we applaud the river users for that cooperation.
Is there anything else that needs to be brought forward today? I appreciate the Parks Policy Committee for staying for this long agenda and bearing through it, and we're dismissed.